I'm about to flip a coin. Heads or tails? What do you think?
Heads.
Okay, it's heads. Air pressure and viscosity, the orientation and magnitude of the force, the curvature and bumps of the coin, randomness. Is it ever possible to predict the outcome of a coin flip? Is our world consisted of randomness or uniformity, predictability or uncertainty? But I surely can choose to raise my hand now, right? Really? So think about it. Why are you here? Is there a cause? Is there a cause to that cause? Does the past determine the present, and does the present determine the future? Are we humans simply puppets on a web of strings, weaved by the laws of physics or intermingled by the will of God? Tonight I'm going to prove to you that you have no free will, and therefore why all possible moral judgments are fundamentally irrational and pragmatically impractical. Okay, so what do you mean when you say you will do something? Well, you most likely mean that something in the future is going to be done by you, or you can mean that you want to do something in the future. So this can both express inevitability or subjective wish, and that is, in the nutshell, the determinist argument. So consider this case raised by American philosopher Harry Frankfurt to answer the question of what is free will. John is a fervent Democrat and is about to vote in a presidential election. What he does not know is that the Democrats have developed a machine that will make everyone who's about to vote Republican vote Democrat. That is to say, no matter what John does, his actions can only result in a vote for the Democrats. Now, does John still have free will as compared to when the machine is absent? Well, Frankfurt argues that yes, he does still have free will because there's a qualitative difference between jumping to the pond and being pushed into it. But I, as a determinist, disagree with Frankfurt, as he says that we have free will in the first place. Well, it is precisely because that we do whatever we want to do that we have no free will. And here's our argument. You cannot choose what you want, but you only do what you want. And therefore, you do not control what you do, and thus, you have no free will. Now, you're shopping for ice cream, chocolate or vanilla. Think about why you would prefer one over the other. Is that under your control? Now, presumably, you don't want to punch me in the face, but can you choose to want to do that? No. Can you choose to not want to do that? No, it just is. Now, I know what you might be thinking, but what if now, in the foreknowledge that I prefer vanilla over chocolate, decide to go for chocolate anyways, just for the sake of regaining my free will? But you still face the same problem. In order to do that, your want to regain your free will must outweigh your want to satiate your taste buds. Why is that? It just is. So you might be saying, well, sometimes I do things I don't want to do, right? But there still has to be an underlying want. You might not want to hit the gym, but you still do because your underlying want of staying healthy, that's perhaps in the unconscious, drives you to go to the gym as it outweighs your want to coast. Now, you might not hit the gym. Well, that would be because your want to coast will outweigh your want to gain benefit from your gym. Why is one stronger than the other? Well, it just is. It is not up to you. Wait, what? So, if we say that this remained an untested hypothesis, well, this actually remained an untested hypothesis until recently, when in 2008, Korean scientist C.S. Soon conducted an experiment in which he asked his subjects to freely choose between two buttons and then immediately press them. What he found was that the outcome of a decision can be encoded in brain activity up to 10 seconds before it enters awareness. That is to say, the moment you start choosing between chocolate and vanilla, your brain would have already made that decision for you by these brain processes that you never know had happened. In order to control your brain processes, you would have to be conscious, right? Because to control is to be conscious, but to be conscious is to be delayed. Your free will, that is the weighing of multiple options, is but a delayed reflection of those uncontrollable brain processes. The brains of hemispatial patients can identify the difference between these two images, but their consciousness can't. When the researcher asks them which one they prefer to live in, they uniformly choose the one that's not on fire, but they don't know why. When the researchers throw a ball to their left, they dodge it, but without knowing why. Do they have free will? Well, obviously not. They do not have any more free will than the rest of us, because our free will is but an illusion. That is the report of the decision made by your brain to your consciousness. There is no fundamental difference between the decisions that we make. Okay, so why do we judge? As humans, our quantitative advantages in cognitive abilities gave rise to a qualitative advancement in our consciousness. And our judgment is a mindset of this consciousness. It is a product of the belief that we have free will. It is inherently a support of a monopoly of ideas and ideals, a focus on one's past and an ignorance of one's future. Judgment is irrational, and that can be rendered alone by proving the plausibility of determinism. Hitler could not have chosen otherwise, nor was Gandhi the cause of his wants. But even if you do believe in free will, it is still irrational. So, yeah, these are the premises that determinism render invalid. Many of you had heard of this story. Phineas Gage, an 19th century railway worker who is a courteous, kind, generous fellow, until the accident in which a metal rod blasted to his skull during an excavation mission, after which his personality took a 180-degree shift. Did you know that hungry judges are harsher? Sentence length uniformly increases as we approach lunchtime and late afternoon. Aren't we as vulnerable as Gage or the criminal who gets the hungry judge? Our lives are made up of countless tiny bits of these metal rods. So if you don't judge Gage for his personality shift, why would you judge anyone's anything? Now consider Brown and Williams. Brown swears a lot, and Williams is very polite. Now, in under 0.5 seconds, you might have already identified one trait as superior to the other. In another 2 seconds, you might have already decided to treat Brown with more respect than Williams. But you might never know that Brown grew up in a community with prevalent drug abuse, while Williams attended college and grew up in an affluent community. But what if there's a reverse to the stories that I never told you? We really know someone that well, but still, it is impossible to make a completely rational decision without complete information. Notice that socioeconomic status largely dictates one's behaviors, often not through conscious conduct, but often through unconscious demeanor. So we might not be racist, sexist, or classist, but we might be propelling these injustices simply by being judges. Tennyson once famously said, we are all part of everyone we've ever met. Rightly so, isn't it? Who can deny that you might be here due to some rotten tomato Napoleon ate on an 18th century morning, or learning that you cannot fly when you're 5? Because of these inexplicable causations, it is simply irrational to judge, as no one is truly the sole cause of any action. Who can deny that those villains are not simply scapegoats of a social function or the ill hosts of human interaction? That is not to say, however, that confronting the problem is irrational. Precisely the opposite. A society reigned not by complaints of anger, but ruled by confessions of sanity, divided not by prejudice, but gapped by understanding, can only be the result of us fighting alongside each other, but not against each other. We may perpetrate and perpetuate the victimization of ourselves or others, but we may also be juries, submitting to the justices in ourselves. Thank you.